introduction. There are certain advantages to be some of the last presenters, not because it's Saturday afternoon and people maybe wants to go home soon, but there are so many good inputs that we've heard last 2 days that I can take some of these examples and add to those. So what I'm going to try to do is to place our experience in the context of these other experiences that we've heard today and yesterday. Also, I was lucky to be in these conferences with Nicholas for the last couple of years, and it's very nice to see that how an idea picks up momentum, and how you're seeing more and more companies. And the presentation is one thing, but also when you have lunch breaks and dinners, and then you have these real-life stories of companies actually implementing continuous monitoring. And I'm glad to see that there are many similarities in these experiences, which means that well, maturity is maybe not appropriate yet, but definitely this starts to be a discipline on itself, and you know, I'm sure that the benefits are also coming because of that. So so my name is Andrew Gonczi, and I'm working with Data to Knowledge. We are a small technology company specialized in the financial industry and continuous monitoring and data extraction. I just run through very quickly to the basics, and then I'll try to spend a little bit more time about subjects that I think could be a common interest here based on what I've heard the last 2 days. So we have clients in the United States. They are mostly for financial data, and our biggest client for continuous monitoring is the KBC Bank, which is some of the largest financial institution in Europe. So they are approximately like 13th or 14th, so they're not, you know, the biggest ones, but they have 50,000 employees, and so they are a very important player. This is an interesting slide here because when I was presenting here a few years ago, I still had to explain why continuous monitoring is becoming a must. I just kept this slide because today I think it's obvious why. There were actually too many examples lately. So I don't think anybody is disputing that there are certain industries and areas where continuous monitoring is just a must. And we've heard about banks, and then quite obviously banks are you know, some of the most important institutions because that's where the money is, and so there's a lot of interest from people who shouldn't have interest in that money. And we have multi-year experience to monitor those, and I'm going to go a little bit more details in that. In terms of thinking, try to be ahead of you know, figuring out what's the next way to steal money. And I want to relate to comments made by Shelley from MetLife that so I think one of the most important things is to find the right people within the organization to be able to define these business rules, and again, they don't need to have the programming skills themselves. You know, actually, if they do, it's good, because if somebody is good in database, I think it's easier for them to define these queries. But it's enough if you have a couple of people who are really good in the business logic and who can work together with the database guy and just put together like a small team of 2 or 3 or 4 people and kind of brainstorm about the events and do new queries. That's what we've done. That our company provided the programming skills and the logic, and again we haven't been sending these really hardcore programmers, so to say. It's more like the manager type who's still hands-on with databases, knows the database features, but already has enough business experience and good at communication. So that's one that IT should send or whatever. I mean, this is a skill that And then you have the other people who are like these investigator types and figuring out how to do these queries. And these are, so the slide shows the monitored events. So what are the things that we are monitoring? And some of them are driven by just regulation. So you don't have to figure out exactly because it's mandated by the regulator, and that's compliance function. So for instance, I'll give you an example. If there's a cash movement in an account that exceeds 80,000 euro, that's obviously a suspicious event. It's not necessarily fraud or money laundering, but anyway, that's something that needs to be reported. And then what we had to do is to enable the system to find this kind of behavior and report it. Well, that might sound easy, but actually, given the fact that the KBC Bank, just like almost any other bank, by the way, they grew through acquisitions, and they have at least 8 different systems that they don't talk to each other. So for instance, if somebody is a little bit of knowledgeable about the systems, he or she can either take money or deposit money on the account much more than 8,000 euro just using separate systems, and none of the systems would show any discrete transaction exceeding this level. So this is a little bit of the infomercial for Sanders from Teradata, that yes, you do need some type of data warehousing, because if you don't see the data together normalized, then you would never see these kind of events. Well, that's true for our bank. So that in some other industries that might not be the case, but generally speaking, I would absolutely agree with Sander that the data warehouse is actually it's a must, and the continuous monitoring is just an added bonus. And I'd like to. Another learning was that once we saw the data in a unified view, then we could also figure new ways to catch suspicious behavior. So like we were not only monitoring the transaction systems, but also the internet behavior, and people exchanged confidential information by going to free websites and these kind of things. So I think there's an absolute benefit to put together data from these different systems and analyze that. And whenever you find 1 or 2 cases of fraudulent behavior through manual analysis, then you can sit down with the compliance and fraud prevention team and figure out how to build this into the queries. And how does that relate to continuous auditing? Once you define the queries, you can run that. Well, we are running this every day. Actually, they close their IT systems around midnight, and so the data is gathered into one central location, which is actually a major challenge. If anybody tried to do this kind of project, I'm sure they would agree with me that one of the biggest challenges of implementing continuous monitoring was to get the data together and get that regularly, automatically. But once you have that, and once you normalize this data, you have the opportunity to figure out new queries and implement them very quickly, and voila, you have continuous monitoring because you run these on a daily basis, or if somebody has even a bigger need, then you can also run that real time, which is even more challenging and more expensive, but it depends on your budget. And this way, well, we are very pleased with the result that we've achieved, and we managed to prevent a lot of suspicious behavior and helped our clients to comply with different kinds of regulations. I was asked